Good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well out there and have had a good start to your Tuesday. If you don't already know, my name is Charlie, and we're going to be going over some of the updated model guidance from overnight today. We've got an increasing signal for a snowstorm up the eastern seaboard, pretty much all of it, really. I mean, almost all the way up into the northeast and then inland as far into the Carolinas. So we're going to go over that in today's video. Like this video if you like it, subscribe if you've not done so already. And so we're going to get into it here. This is a loop of the last hour of temperatures. This is not a model, this is observed, and you can see very cold night. It got down to 10 degrees at my house. It's currently 40 at 1:32 p.m. So got really, really cold, 10 degrees, and it was a rough one. We're warming up here. You can see those cooler air signatures moving off to the north. But just wanted to show you guys this as we warm up. So we're going to get into some model guidance here. I got several runs here. So we're just going to go over all of them. So this is the latest GFS model. This is this morning's run, and we get this out in time here. Let's get this to Saturday. So right here, you can see some snow breaking out in the Carolinas and surrounding states, just not to name anywhere super specific, getting into the early morning hours on Saturday. And then we get to Saturday morning, and we have a pretty decent sized snowstorm breaking out here. We have it in the Carolinas, areas of Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Virginias. So it's expanding here. We will take closer looks at this as we get closer, but right now, just focusing in more on a broad look. And then we move this out in time here, and it's a big hit for the Carolinas and the eastern seaboard states here. We get into Saturday afternoon, big snowstorm ongoing. Look at this frame. This is 9 p.m. on Saturday, and this is getting just after midnight. And just look at this snowstorm here. The low is close. It's a 985 low. This will be really, really windy too. This is the equivalent of a pretty decent in strength hurricane, actually. So keep that in mind. This will be something where we have more wind to deal with. But we'll keep this going here. And it kind of bombs out, if you will. And areas along the I-95 corridor, on this run, some areas don't really get hit. But I-95 corridor and points east generally are where we get this. But the GFS just has been showing this kind of consistently here. And all of North Carolina gets some form of snow, every single county on this run. This is not a forecast. This is just the latest of that. So let's look at the Euro. And I hate to say it, but it is a miss for the first time in a little while, actually. So this is starting out Saturday afternoon. This is an interesting feature that's been showing up. We actually kind of merge our moisture. So we have an area of moisture to the north. You can see our upper low, these dotted blue lines, it's centered right there. And then we have our surface low out over the water here. But this little kind of band of snow, who knows, that might happen. And if it does, could overperform a little bit. But let's continue. That's the only thing that happens in the central and western areas of the Carolinas. And then it kind of gets the Outer Banks. And I have checked. This is the latest run, the 6Z. And it just it doesn't do anything. It stays offshore. I think our cold air press is a little bit too aggressive on this run to keep the moisture inland. So it pushes it offshore, and we don't get a whole lot. So that's the latest Euro. And I'm going to have to make it a little smaller. If we go back one here, and look at that, it was different, right? We kind of had that initial snow band in the Carolinas, but it kind of filled in. It still didn't get the Western Carolinas all that well. So if you live in the Greenville-Spartanburg area or the I-85 corridor from Atlanta to Charlotte, and you're thinking, yeah, what the heck? Even this run's not really much of anything. Don't worry, but I'm also going to say I'm not, because I live here. I live, right in upstate South Carolina at the end of my cursor here. I'm not too optimistic about this because it has been so consistently based in the eastern areas of the Carolinas, especially North Carolina and Virginia. It's a little bit too far north and east of us to really get much of anything. That's not to say we haven't had some pretty crazy totals here, but that's the latest Euro. Kind of goes up the coast and doesn't do a whole lot. What about some AI model guidance? Again, I said this in the last 2 videos and I'll say it again. We're looking at this because AI is typically pretty good at pattern recognition. So it might be able to sniff out some ideas before they start on our other model guidance, that is. So this is the latest, the 12Z AI GFS model. And again, it kind of merges our moisture. So we have an area of moisture over the southern Appalachian Mountains, Tennessee, Kentucky, the Virginias, the Carolinas, Northeast Georgia. And then it kind of fills in. So we get into Saturday at just after lunchtime, not a forecast. We have a pretty expansive area of snow here, kind of centered right over where I live here. And we continue this on, put this in motion, and it's a big hit. Hours of snow in the eastern Carolinas, as well as the western Carolinas. So it keeps areas further west. Atlanta, you get something. Down to Augusta, Macon, you're getting something. Down to, I mean, it's not, there's moisture down as far south as near Jacksonville. So that's something to keep in mind if it's cold enough. And then, so at this, like in this frame here, nearly every single county in South Carolina is snow. Same with North Carolina. And then it amplifies. It's a 982 low. It's further offshore. And this is an I-95 Miller A look, right? Miller A is just a type of storm system where we kind of get this low to form down here and then just ride up the coast, just like this. So this low can take multiple tracks. It can form and go like this. I don't think it will. It can form and just go right up the coast, kind of like this, or it can go out to sea more. And that is going to be very important. We're going to look at that later, the Euro Ensemble, what it shows for that. But this rolls up the coast. That's a 970 low, and this would get some winds going. You know, Cape Cod here with some snow, maybe mixing, but it's very windy too. So we'll look into that wind stuff as we get closer. What about the Euro AI? It's the exact same thing. We have this initial, area of moisture. We do have a little bit more mixing on this run. Don't focus too much. But we have an initial area here, and then we move this on in time, and it's very similar to the AI GFS. Kind of get this area of moisture, and it's merging with the Atlantic moisture here, and then right along the coast we get mixing. Don't know if we'll see that or not. This is getting into Saturday evening. Our models are beginning to agree on a start time. That would be Saturday morning. On almost every single one. Saturday morning to Saturday early afternoon is when this event starts, back up in here. We get this in motion here, and it keeps the highest rates of snowfall in the eastern North Carolina area up to the Chesapeake Bay area of Virginia. And then it kind of, same thing, 970, 960 something low, moves off, very windy. That right there, a 968 millibar low, it's just moving off screen, is the equivalent of nearly a major hurricane. So very low pressure, very strong system, and it moves on out. So what about the Canadian model? On this site, it offers some more zoomed in sectors that make some sense here. We have a mid-Atlantic sector, so we're going to use it. And again, this is starting out Saturday morning, about 8 a.m., 8 a.m. And we have areas of snow breaking out across the Carolinas and Georgia, Tennessee, eastern Kentucky. And it's really, you can see it's these higher values are reserved for the eastern areas of South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. West Virginia maybe get a little bit, but then we kind of move this on out, and it goes up the coast. That's a 958 low. That's a really, really low pressure there. And it kind of moves on, and again, Cape Cod, you're kind of sticking out like a sore thumb there, and I'm sure you guys are used to some of these overperforming when it comes to the wind. I mean, this would be very, very windy, to say the least. And yeah, so pretty similar look, right? A lot of model consistency here. So I have this right here pulled up because I want to explain something to you. Don't worry about what model this is. We have a lot of agreement on temperatures. This is just the GFS. I didn't even bother changing because they're all mostly the same. I'm not going to move the map a little bit, but these are temperatures at the surface. This is getting into Friday evening or Saturday evening, right? We can pull this back, and maybe some warmer air working in, but don't worry too much about that. When this event is really getting underway here, it looks like this. This would be 7 p.m. And we have 20s in most of every county of the Carolinas and Virginia, teens in some of these areas. And yeah, what I want you to get from that is that these temperatures are so cold that you really don't have to worry too much about mixing, and our upper air profiles will look good um for snow. We in this last event in the Carolinas and Georgia, for example, it was like 28 outside and freezing rain, and that's because there's a warm nose aloft that you can't see unless you take a sounding. So I'm going to do that here. I think it'll let me. So just central South Carolina here. This might take a second to load in, but I think it'll be worth showing. See how this, let's pick a different one. Let's see, this one here. There's a blue dotted line that goes up like this. That is 0 degrees Celsius. That is freezing, 32 Fahrenheit. And these red and green lines here are the temperature and dew point, respectively. Temperature, dew point, and they're plotted, and this is with height. They go up, and this is miles above your head, 15 kilometers, many miles above your head, right? So notice how it starts at 23, 22, 23 degrees at the surface, and then it just goes off colder. This is a snow sounding. Notice how it says down here, best guess precipitation type, snow. That's, we would look at the sounding before using the algorithm to show us, but yeah, we start this off below freezing and stay below freezing. So that's why I have that pulled up. And it's the same story, even colder, negative temperatures up here. So I'm not going to look too much into this right now, but very cold temperatures. So that being said, the ratios will be higher, meaning that the more precipitation falls, the more snow you're going to get. So on average, in a thunderstorm, right, if you compare that rain that falls, just straight liquid precipitation, typically that would equal an inch of that from a thunderstorm, and an inch of just typical rain would equal about 10 inches of snow. That's a high ratio, right? Well, we might get way higher with our ratios here because it's so cold. So we might get like 15 to 20 to 1. So much more efficient snowfall rates here. Just something to keep in mind before we look at our snow totals. So let's go. This is the Canadian model. And even though it's not super aggressive in this area with heavy snow, it's more light, we still have multiple inches showing up here. And even as far south as Atlanta, Macon is right here in this area, and you guys are right on the edge. But if you live in Macon, don't think that this is over for you. I'm not optimistic about you guys getting much measurable snow, because see where this axis is? It's way over here. If you're down in Atlanta, down to Macon, down, even as far south as the Savannah-Beaufort area here, even though you're not seeing a whole lot on this run, you guys are typically close. Don't think it's over, but also don't keep your hopes up too much. This seems to be based a little bit too far north and east of this area in general. It's kind of up here. And it'll continue likely to trend like this. That's what they typically do. These storm systems do. So that's the latest with that. And we multiple over a foot of snow in the Raleigh-Durham area, Greenville, Greensboro, and then up through the Tidewater kind of. Chesapeake Bay with nearly 2 feet of snow. Goes up the coast and it keeps most of it in Cape Cod 15 inches in wind. That's a blizzard. Very obviously so. So let's look at some others here. This is the Euro Ensemble. We like to look at this, and you can just see very clearly where this is based, right? We have some showing up here. It's not nothing, but these are pretty low. Atlanta's at less than a quarter inch. Macon is at less than a quarter inch. And the really measurable snow starts, I-26. That goes between where it says 105 and 103 here, points north and east, and then I-95 just goes straight up through here. Even I-95 points east, kind of keeps the heaviest stuff. So this is a full run, and there's not a whole lot. This is not a super impressive signal, but we need to watch and see if it kind of ticks down here, or if it ticks over here. It might tick up here, or it might stay where it is and go further out to sea. We don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. So let me look here at 2 runs ago. It was different. We have definitely, we look at that, look at this, much heavier across eastern North Carolina. And this moves even further. So this is trending north, but it's trending northeast. There could be reasons for that. There obviously has to be reasons for that. So we can look into that stuff, but it's not too important. Just watch generally where this is. How about the GFS ensemble? I'm gonna look and see. We don't have enough. Okay, I'm gonna bring this back. Here we go. So it holds out some hope for areas just still north of Atlanta, but areas a little bit further to the west, right? We have a couple inches showing up my neck of the woods down to Columbia, and then I-95 corridor here goes straight through the heart of this, and we have multiple inches. Central and eastern North Carolina are target areas by a lot of models here. Raleigh-Durham area with nearly 5 inches. As you get over towards the Chesapeake Bay area, we're getting near 10 inches. And then obviously it keeps the heaviest totals offshore. So you're still with nearly a foot in Cape Cod, but that's nothing compared to 14. You guys just got a lot of snow, unless I'm delusional. So I'm sure you guys are not going to be begging for this necessarily, but this is a little bit better. What about some operational runs? This was the 6Z European. We just showed you that not too long ago, and how much of a whiff it was when it came to actual precipitation, and it's backed up. Maybe an inch and a half in Columbia, not a forecast. Southern Appalachians a little bit more. That initial energy is up here, but the Raleigh-Durham area, less than an inch. Now, it still does target far eastern areas, the Outer Banks in North Carolina, with multiple inches of snow, not a forecast. But it looks way different. Now, if we go back on this one run, far different here. This is that's 20 inches in the Greenville area of North Carolina up to near Elizabeth City. Not a forecast. This is an old run, too. But, yeah. And then we go back, let's say one more run. Even more of a crazy run here. By the way, this event is not even done at this point. That's 30 inches offshore. That's a lot, but this isn't. And this is the full event. This takes us through Monday, so it's over. So we will see trends like this. I actually kind of like to see this. Maybe thinking, you live over here, you're insane. No, I'm not. If we look at where the heaviest of this is, and we know from climatology, any expert meteorologist will tell you these like to go like this in the days leading up to an event. On our model guidance, they like to go like this. Where is this going to end up? We don't know. Let's say it ends up in here. That's closer to home. Let's say it ends up in here. That includes me. So seeing this not amplify so much, still multiple days away, is kind of interesting to me. It tells me that there's still a possible scenario out there that keeps the low offshore enough, keeps the cold air strong enough where we don't really get anything. I'm going to look here Saturday into the overnight hours. I'm going to do this on the fly and just show you. These are our temperatures, guys. This is insane for a lot of these areas. Our freezing line is right here in this blue where it turns to blue, but this is 20s and teens everywhere in the Carolinas. Almost, except for the far eastern areas of the Outer Banks. Very, very cold temperatures here. And so the rates would be higher, yes, but I'm wondering on this run if it's such an aggressive push of cold air, it keeps all the moisture offshore. That can happen, and it does. So, yeah, who knows? It kind of lines up. This line where it's freezing and really, really cold kind of lines up. So, who knows? But something to look at. What about the Euro AI? It's kind of a middle ground between everything. Keeps some higher totals in central North Carolina, a few inches down my neck of the woods, even as far south as Atlanta, getting close, but you really have to go up the road towards Gainesville to see more. And then, Aiken, Columbia, Sumter, over towards Florence here. I don't know why you're not showing up on this map, but you're right here where it says 3.5. And then, it's a secondary maximum over areas of the far eastern North Carolina. So this is not a bad signal. But again, not to nitpick on this, but let's say this is their heaviest. It's going to trend like this most likely. may trend like this. Some of our models have actually ticked south a little bit, but overall these events like to trend northwest. They just do. So just watch that. And then how about the good old GFS model? We all know this is not the greatest model to look at. I know that. And this is kind of why. I mean, that says 32 inches, nearly 33. That's nearly 3 feet of snow for those of you who didn't put that together in Richmond, Virginia. That's insane. And we have multiple inches back here and over in my neck of the woods. Atlanta, you're probably looking at me like I got lobsters crawling out of my ears, and you're like, dude, this is insane. I hate winter because look at this, 1100s. Not yet, not time to look at me like that. It might happen. I kind of buy this scenario in the sense that our areas where it's the most are centered here. I think our model guidance likes that, or rather, kind of here. So even my neck of the woods being on the southern fringes here doesn't surprise me. That's why I'm not too optimistic here. But insane snowfall totals here. I mean, you can see them nearly or over 2 feet in central North Carolina, nearly 10 inches in the Outer Banks, and it goes up, hits Cape Cod with a nice 16 inches, and then keeps the heavy stuff offshore. So not a forecast. Please don't take it as a forecast, but that's the latest from that. So let's go into the pattern here. I don't want to keep these videos too long, but here we go. We're going to try to figure out why this is using just the Euro Ensemble, just an old reliable. So this is the mid to upper level height anomalies. If you don't know, these are below average pressures. Typically, they're below average temperatures as well. And it's quite the opposite. This is a ridge spiking over here that would indicate warmer air aloft, especially stable conditions. So you also kind of look at where this is pointing. That was not straight. Let's do it like this. It's kind of pointing like that. The bottom of it's pointed like that. So it's pretty negatively tilted. But not to get too caught up in the details here. This is valid Saturday morning. So, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And you can see it kind of amplifies. The values get a little bit darker as we get into the overnight hours. So it pivots through at just the right time. Our upper level low does. And you kind of see it rides up the coast. And that's all we have to look at with this. So at this frame right here, Saturday afternoon, you can see this trough, these values starting to amplify a little bit, digging like this. Now, if, for example, we look at the operational Euro, it's almost exactly the same. There's minimal differences here. What about the GFS? This is why it's so much bigger of a scenario. You see how much deeper these values? I mean, this is very cut and dry. This is our upper levels, and these are very, very low pressures. That's why it's such a huge snowfall for these areas, and it rolls on through and goes up out of the way. This is very amplified. It's possible to see it, but I think sticking with something like this is better, more responsible. So there's our pressures. Now, how about our energy? This is the GFS. The reason I'm showing you this is because it's such a huge outcome here. So this is starting off Saturday morning. Notice how we're starting this off at less than 100 hours. It's close. Just a few days. And so what this is vorticity. Just think about this as energy. In the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, these higher values is just more energy. So like this would be an area of energy. That's an area of energy. And then, obviously this big digging, this whole thing is a lot of energy. So we're starting off Saturday morning. And we move this on. Click on it here. And yeah, we get into the overnight hours and you see how much energy there is. Just insane amounts. It's kind of curling up like a snail almost. Like a snail shell. Like that. And that tells you just insane amounts of energy in the mid to upper levels. So it's a hit. Now, for example, if we go back before this a little bit, Thursday and Friday, we have some players here to look at. Obviously our upper levels right here, that's some energy. We have a piece of like northern stream energy kind of diving further south, and then we have an active southern stream down here. So there's like 3 pieces. And then so obviously the area you're going to be watching is where are they going to meet? What's going to happen? And I mean, I just showed it to you that these are really, really, they come together perfectly and we get this massive area of energy to form. And so that's why it's such a hit. But if you compare this, say, to the euro and back it up here, yes, there's a lot there. This is what run is this? This is the 6E. Yeah, okay. So this tells me this right here. You can see how there's so much energy in this area. Just in general, this area. And yet, you saw the outcome of this run. I mean, barely anything fell. That tells me that it's the cold air that's the problem. It's so cold that when it pushes down, it just pushes the moisture away. So that can happen, and that's a real scenario. Now we look at something a little bit more reliable here. Looks very, very similar. I mean, this is, let's see, we have the latest. So this is, I think, a responsible thing to look at, right? Select this. So, you know, our area of energy in this area, it kind of dives down and then dives through. And then we have southern stream energy meeting it. So we'll see. That's our energy. And now how about lows? So if any of you have ever watched, I haven't made them because the channel wasn't around at the time. If you've ever watched hurricane forecasting videos, people look at these. This is the Euro Ensemble, and these are the individual members that put a low. And you'll start to see this fill in. So this is getting into, you know, Saturday throughout the day. And you can see, even though the values don't change a whole lot, this kind of cluster here of numbers. This is the pressure. 1009, 1004, you know. And you can start to see these values as kind of that color that I just circled start to fill in here. So where does it go? Well, you can see it very quickly intensifies. So somewhere overnight into Sunday, this weekend, it starts to really amplify here with this. This is the surface low. This is not upper levels. Notice right in this time frame here. We'll use this one. You can see there's a highest concentration of lows right here. That's closer to shore. What I gather from that is that, if anything, snow will be based further to the west than here. We might have more rain in these areas. Overall, this is not me telling you that if you live in the coastal areas, you're going to get rain. But with the majority of lows this close to the shore, it tells me something. And then we get up here, and some of these members, you know, 971, 960s, 980, you know, whatever. So you can see our highest concentration, they move offshore. So that's why I wanted to show you that. But what does it actually say? It's final after all of that. Where does the Euro Ensemble say that the low pressure goes? It's going to have averaged it all together. You can see it forms 1010 millibar low here Saturday afternoon. Kind of amplifies, gets stronger, stays further offshore. This is the average of all of them. So the average, it stays offshore because you still have members that are way offshore. And it rolls up here. So this is also at the same time. This could be, if your low is this far offshore, why areas further west don't get as much when it comes to precipitation in general. So something to watch. So that's all I have for you. I don't have anything else to show you today. I'll have a video out probably 8 or 9 o'clock as usual. I appreciate the amount of growth this channel has seen over the past couple of weeks and you sticking with me and watching. So yeah, like I said, appreciate that. Tune in to the video. Got another 6 or 7 hours, and I will see you guys then.